But let's start with solving proportions. Remember, a proportion is two equivalent fractions, basically. And so when you're solving a proportion, you do cross products. So A times D equals B times C, and then you would solve for whatever variable that you have. Keeping in mind that the more complicated one of the areas is on one of the fractions, like if you have multiple variables or a product of variables, you may have to solve an equation when you're doing this. Sometimes you can just plug it in your calculator. So like if I had 3 over 4 equals x over 10, I can just do 3 times 10 divided by 4 to get x. But if I had 7 over 6 plus x plus, or equals, sorry, x plus 5 over 8, then I'm going to have to do a little bit more work. 6 times x plus 5 equals 7 times 8, and I'm going to have to go through and solve the equation. So these are like the two kinds of things that you can have. So you would have to solve this equation to finish that out. And you've solved equations before, and if you struggle with how to solve, just let me know. But the basic is cross products are equal. Boys, I am going through the formulas, so shush, shush, please. Okay. All right, so that's proportions. Up next, percent problems. Remember the little percent formula? Percent always goes over 100. The number that follows of always goes on the bottom. And then the number that's around the is, or I always say the last number that's left, goes on the top. So when you read through your problem, whatever the what is going to be your variable. So in this case, my x is my variable. And then 37.3 goes over 63.4. And then you just solve like a proportion. Just a normal way of solving, nothing new. So that's the next type of problem that's on your test tomorrow. The rest are just kind of formulas that you're going to have to pick out. So for formulas, percent change. Percent change is x over 100 equals 2 minus from over from. And again, it's another proportion. All of these are the same in terms of solving a proportion. All of those first ones. Markup and discount are where things change. So markup and discount is the next section. Please jot these down so you have these formulas for when you take your test tomorrow. You'll be able to use your review on your test. So remember, markup and tax are 1 plus the decimal percent. And then discount is 1 minus the decimal percent. And so the basic formula is whatever amount you're given times either 1 plus or minus the decimal percent. Again, plus if it's markup or discount or tax, minus if it's discount. But this is the general formula that you use. So you just Make sure that you convert your percent. Remember, a percent to a decimal. 45% equals 0.45. Move your decimal point over twice. But 4% equals 0.04. Move your decimal over two. So remember that. Okay. Okay, so get that formula down. Again, that's the general formula that you'll use. Okay, and then the last two formulas, the first one's pretty self-explanatory, pretty basic. Simple interest. The amount equals the principal times 1 plus rate times time, where P is the start amount. R is the rate. Make sure you change it to a decimal. And T is the time, typically in years. What you're finding is your end amount. So really, basically, you just have to take the information that's given and plug it into that formula. Just again, make sure that you convert your rate into a decimal. Okay? And then lastly is the compound interest. A little more complicated. The formula for compound interest is A equals P times 1 plus R over N raised to the N times T power. I use the caret key on mine. Please make sure when you do N times T, if you use the caret key, you put those in parentheses. The only new thing is the N. N is the number of times the rate is applied. And that depends on these words. So my N comes from these things. Daily, what does that mean?
Every day.
Yeah, so it's 365. Weekly, 52. Good guess. Monthly, 12. Quarterly, 4. Semi-annually, and annually, 1. Okay, so I recommend that you get all that stuff down again, because when you take your test tomorrow, you're not going to be able to use me. You're only going to be able to use your review and your notes, okay? So your job, bless you, is to work on, bless you, the review, evens or odds.